Welcome to the Bronx Journal. I'm your guest host, Charles Reynoso. For the last 10 years, Inwood Park in the Upper West Side of Manhattan has been home to a variety of people, cultures, languages, classes. It's also been home to the Moose Hall Theater Company and the Inwood Shakespeare Festival. Every summer, the local residents are awed and entertained by amazing classics like Shakespeare's Merchants of Venice, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and even good old-fashioned westerns. Live performances are put on every summer for anyone who has a couple of hours and the desire to be entertained. The man responsible for this is the founder and artistic director of Moose Hall Theater Company and the Inwood Shakespeare Festival, Mr. Ted Minos. Thanks for coming, Ted.
It's a pleasure.
So, Ted, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing with the Moose Hall Theater Company.
Well, Moose Hall Theater Company is a 501c3 nonprofit company, and part of our mission is to get young actors into roles who they usually would not be able to play. And when I say that, you know, I'm speaking of minorities. And being a minority myself, I know how difficult it can be to be cast in classics. If you're not fortunate enough to go to Juilliard or Yale, etc., you need a lot of background. You need a lot of practice. And when we see someone that has potential, we like to bring young people in. If they can fill the roles, we still have a criteria. We still have to audition.
So how is it that you find your actors?
We do it through the audition process, just like any other company. So when we're ready to do a play, we put out a casting call.
Nice. So we know that theater companies go on all the time. What made you decide to bring theater to Inwood Park?
Starting a theater company is one thing, and doing it in a park is kind of another. To go, I guess, back to the genesis of just wanting to create a theater company. When I was young, I was a student at Berklee College of Music. I was a composition major in the day. And in the evening, I was an associate member with the Boston Repertory Theater Company. So I saw all these young people, and everyone was under the age of 30. And they managed to purchase an old recording studio, got the money for that, and got the money to turn it into a theater. And they were all that young, and I was there on a day-to-day process, so I would be a fly on the wall. And I saw that this thing could actually happen, how exciting it was, and it was very real and visceral. And that was one aspect, just creating a theater, having a company, having a vision. So the other aspect is coming to New York years later, after I had trained seriously as an actor. I came from England. I spent those early years on the Upper West Side. And in the late 70s and early 80s, the theater I liked the most, and I saw a lot, was what I saw in the park, which was Joseph Papp's Delacour Theater. And it made a deep impression on me. And so did Raul Julia, who was my favorite actor of his time. And that stuck with me. When I came to Inwood, which was about 1985, there was this gorgeous park there, and I was waiting for someone to do some great theater out there, but they hadn't. And after about 10 years, I came in with my own group. You know, first I co-produced for 2 years, and then I incorporated Moose Hall, and Moose Hall became the main producer of the Inwood Shakespeare Festival, and we'll be going into our 12th season this year. So something about the park has a magical quality that, and I love theater. I love indoor theater, so to speak, and black box theater, but there's something very different in the demographics and the people who come to see it. You'll have a greater mix of people from various cultures, side by side, truly sitting side by side. So there's a different feeling in the audience. There's a different charge to the air doing it outdoors. And of course it has different challenges.
I can imagine. So how has Inwood accepted Moose Hall and the Inwood Shakespeare Festival? How have the residents, how have the people come in? Have they opened you with open arms, or has it been like, why are you throwing Shakespeare at us?
Well, when you're a nascent group, they say the first year was 2000. We were brand new, and it was a more rough, you could say, rough park in those days too. Now, Inwood incrementally has been changing, for the good. It has a wonderful mix, but it was a little rougher then in the park and in general. And we had to overcome more with our voices. When you came in, we had a sound system now. We didn't have a sound system in those days, so there was much more to overcome technically. And there were a little bit more challenges with the people in the area, but we have become, over time, very much part of the the culture of the summer. People look forward to us, and many people in the community and beyond the community at this point in time come to see the shows, and they're very encouraging. And the audiences have been growing throughout the years, and what they ask of us is for more productions.
Oh, wow.
So I would say, yeah, I think they accept us.
So tell me about some of the amazing productions you've put on. I recently saw one and it was amazing. But you guys have been there for 10 years?
12.
12
Well,
years.
going into 12. We were there. You were there with our 11th season, and the production you were with was Tombstone, and that was an original, and I wrote that. And let me tell you, what we do now is we'll do at least one Shakespeare, at least. And then I like to follow it with something that is more quote-unquote crossover piece, something that will encourage people who will see Shakespeare, who don't know it, will say, that seems boring, that seems, like going to school. They'll avoid it rather than come. And part of the mandate is to get people to see theater in and of itself. So I'll do a second show. And it will often still be classically orientated. It might be something from classical literature, though, like Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Pirates. We'll have Treasure Island, or we'll have fantasy. We'll have Arabian Nights. That will encourage people just to come just for that experience of fun. They consider that more fun, which it is. But it also has aspects of poetry. It has that great thing going on, which is called live theater. They'll be exposed to that. And then they'll say, well, they'll come around next year and they'll take a look at the Shakespeare. And to their chagrin and delight, they'll find, despite the archaic language, that they understand a lot. Or they'll find the comedy still funny. They'll find the poetry still somehow affecting them, though they don't understand it word for word, because we have very good actors coming up, very professional people.
Speaking of your actors, how big do these casts get? Because I can only imagine putting on Shakespeare in general. There are just so many roles.
Well, when you came in, I think that was definitely the largest cast. I think it was 29 actors and a dog, or 30 actors and a dog. The second shows tend to be a little bit bigger because of the subject matter. They're action adventure, or they're, we like to do that, and it brings more actors into the fold. But the Shakespeare, frequently enough, has been around 18, and which is, for me, it can be pretty small. But yeah, they can be large casts.
Now, there are tons of aspiring actors and directors out there, and having started your own theater company, having brought Shakespeare to Inwood, what kind of advice would you have for actors, or aspiring actors, aspiring directors, aspiring theater majors?
Everyone has to find themselves, but to put it concisely, find a group of somewhat like-minded people and create your own work. What great advantage I got from working with music was that these people would get together after hours, they would jam, they would create, they would work constantly together. So people tend to think frequently that in acting, it's over when the show's over, it's over when the rehearsal's over, but you can get together. You can actually coach each other. You can actually create shows and produce shows on your own. And it's a good way to learn. It's very, very difficult. Especially in this economic environment, but you can still get together, you can still learn, you can still build yourselves up as a group. And in the midst of trying a professional career, which is very, very difficult, you can keep yourself on your toes, so to speak, and keep yourself as sharp as possible. You can do a lot for yourselves as a group, because it's definitely it's a combination of people that makes this art form work. You don't do it alone.
Well, Ted, it has been amazing having you here. And is there a way that people could contact you? Oh,
yeah. The easiest word to remember is Inwood Shakespeare Festival. So Inwood, www.inwoodshakespearefestival.com.